25 mind-blowing thrift store and Dollar Tree garden hacks that look like million-dollar designs. Hey there, friend. Welcome to Earthly Delights, where dirt under your nails means joy in your heart, and turning scraps into splendor is just another day in the garden. If you're the kind of person who slows down at the sight of a wilting plant because you know it still has life in it. If you've ever looked at a cracked teacup or an old wooden drawer and thought, I bet I could grow something in that, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. You love your plants, but maybe you don't have a big budget. You want your garden to feel like you, charming, creative, a little wild, and most of all, personal. Whether you're in a small apartment with sunlit windows or tending a cozy backyard plot, you believe beauty blooms wherever love is planted. Today, I'm sharing 25 thrift store and Dollar Tree garden hacks that look like they came from a high-end designer catalog, but cost next to nothing. These aren't just tips, they're transformations, and they'll change how you see your space, your budget, and even yourself. So if you're ready to make your garden look like $1 million without spending it, stick with me. And if you haven't already, tap that subscribe button so you don't miss a single seed of inspiration here on Earthly Delights. Shall we dig in? Part 1. Curious Containers with Character, Hacks 1 to 5. Let's begin where all great garden transformations do, not in a nursery or home improvement aisle, but right in the thrift store, among the forgotten containers. You see, containers hold more than soil. They hold potential. They whisper, look closer, and when you do, that's when the magic begins. Take an old metal colander. For instance, most people see rust and holes. But what if I told you those holes were perfect, not flaws? But fairy windows? Flip it upside down. Place a solar water pump inside. Thread fairy lights through the perforations. And suddenly, your garden has a fountain of starlight. No plumbing, no fuss. Just liquid sparkle whispering secrets at dusk. Now imagine a cracked terracotta pot. Most would toss it, but gardeners like us, we lean in, break it into curved shards, nestle them into soil like ancient ruins, add tiny succulents and moss, and maybe, just maybe, hide a solar light beneath. Suddenly, you've built a fairy staircase village, winding through your flower beds like a tale from another world. And what about that vintage suitcase gathering dust? Line it with plastic. Drill a few drainage holes. Fill it with your favorite herbs, and now you've got a traveling herb garden. One that follows the sun just like a loyal companion. Basil, mint, and thyme thriving wherever the light leads them. Have a bundt cake pan from a thrift haul? Don't bake, plant. Fill its circular frame with succulents, pebbles, and colored moss. The result? A living wreath so gorgeous your guests will think you bought it at a high-end boutique. And remember that damaged dresser drawer someone left on the curb? Each drawer, once a forgotten compartment, can now become a step-by-step flower cascade. Mount them along your fence and watch them spill with trailing blooms, petunias, ivy, even strawberries. These containers may not match. They may be worn, chipped, faded, but they have one thing in common. They still have life to give. And isn't that what gardening is really all about? Stick around. Because in the next part, we're going vertical, and you'll never look at an old window frame or fence picket the same way again. Part 2. Walls that grow, hacks 6 to 10. Now that we've explored the charm of character-filled containers, it's time to look up, literally. Because sometimes, the secret to more garden space is right there on your wall. You don't need a sprawling backyard to have a flourishing garden. Vertical gardening lets you grow upward, especially when ground space is limited. And guess what? The best frames, grids, and support structures aren't in the gardening aisle. They're hiding in thrift stores and estate sales, just waiting for your creativity. Let's start with an old window frame. The kind with no glass but plenty of soul. Stretch chicken wire across the back. Secure it with a staple gun. Then add small pots in each window pane. Suddenly, you've created a living window gallery. Rotate in fresh flowers or herbs each season and your garden wall tells a new story every few months. Now, what about all those tools, seed packets, and gloves that mysteriously disappear the moment you need them? Here's where a humble pegboard from Dollar Tree changes the game. Mount it on your shed or fence. Add hooks, baskets, even old cheese graters as containers, and boom, you've got a garden command center. Everything in its place, right where you need it. Efficiency meets rustic charm. But let's not stop at utility. We're artists, too. That ornate birdcage collecting dust? Strip it clean, hang it from a tree, and fill it with trailing plants like string of hearts or burro's tail. It becomes a hanging chandelier of greenery that sways gently in the breeze, equal parts sculpture and sanctuary. Now picture those broken fence pickets from your neighbor's backyard redo. Don't let them go to waste. Sand them down, paint them with chalkboard paint, and turn them into weathered plant labels. Add a handwritten touch for plant names, care tips, or even affirmations. Suddenly, your garden speaks, not just through flowers, but through words that inspire you daily. And finally, imagine coming across a pair of old wooden shutters at a flea market. Mount them side by side and attach mini terracotta pots to each slat. Paint them soft sage or faded aqua, and you've got a shuttered wall planter that feels like it belongs on a Tuscan villa. Even if you're in a city apartment, you see, walls aren't barriers in a garden. They're opportunities, blank canvases ready to bloom. And when we return, we're going to flip the script, literally, and show you how turning things upside down can bring breathtaking elegance to your garden space. Part 3. Flip it. Reverse it. Hacks 11 to 15. Here's the thing about gardening. It teaches you to see the world a little differently. A little more patiently. A little more creatively. And sometimes, the key to unlocking hidden beauty is simply to turn things upside down. Let's start with something you've probably walked past a dozen times at the garden center. The humble tomato cage. Ordinary, functional, but now, flip it so the narrow end faces skyward. Wrap it in ivy, sweet peas, or morning glories, and suddenly, you're no longer looking at a vegetable support. You're admiring a cone-shaped floral topiary. Elegant enough for a French courtyard. Add a string of solar fairy lights, and your garden glows from the ground up. Next, take a few plastic milk crates, you know the ones everyone seems to toss without a second thought. Line them with landscape fabric. Add soil, and stack them creatively. In spring, keep them low for easy planting. Come summer, raise them for better drainage. Need to move your setup? No problem, they're lightweight, modular, and perfect for evolving spaces. You've just created a customizable raised bed system that adapts with you. And then there's the old rusty wheelbarrow. Left behind in someone's garage. Most folks see decay, but you see design. Fill it with soil in a spiral pattern, short herbs around the rim, taller ones toward the center, and what you get is a portable herb spiral that can chase the sun across your yard. Convenience meets elegance on wheels. Got a broken umbrella lying around? Don't toss it. Strip off the fabric, give the spokes a fresh coat of paint, and stake it into the ground. With some twine and creativity, it becomes a trellis tepi, perfect for beans, roses, or climbing nasturtiums. Its spokes guide growth upward, drawing the eye and giving your garden height, structure, and a touch of architectural drama. And finally, let's talk about those wire baskets. You've probably seen them in thrift stores or hanging in old kitchens. Stack them, wire them together, and suspend them from a tree branch. Fill each level with trailing flowers, herbs, or moss, and just like that, you've created a tiered chandelier garden, a cascading sculpture of living color that sways with every breeze. So the next time you find yourself staring at an object that seems used up, try flipping it, because sometimes, a fresh angle is all it takes to turn the ordinary into the unforgettable. Coming up next, we're stepping into a garden full of heart, whimsy, and wonder, where boots bloom and music spins once more. Stay with me. Part 4. Nature's whimsy in surprising forms, hacks 16 to 20. Sometimes, the most heartwarming moments in the garden come not from grand design, but from unexpected whimsy, the kind that catches you off guard and makes you smile without even realizing it. Because the truth is, beauty doesn't always bloom in symmetry. Sometimes it blossoms in boots, in records, even in mason jars. Let's start with something truly delightful, old boots. Scuffed, worn out, maybe even mismatched, but imagine lining them up along a garden path, each one bursting with cheerful annuals or trailing vines. Work boots, cowboy boots, rain boots, each pair telling its own story of where it's been. And now, what it's growing. What was once destined for the landfill becomes a whimsical walkway through your garden, a playful tribute to every step that brought you here. Next, reach for that stack of vinyl records tucked away in a corner of the thrift store. Too scratched to play, too loved to throw away. Drill a few drainage holes. Paint them in bright, weatherproof colors or mandala patterns, and either mount them as spinning art or use them as saucers beneath potted plants. Their grooves catch the light and shimmer in the breeze, turning forgotten music into a garden symphony of color and motion. And then, those mason jars from Dollar Tree. Simple, unassuming, but when inverted over delicate seedlings, they become tiny glass greenhouses, holding warmth by day and releasing it gently at night, protecting your young plants from frost, wind, and surprise storms. A whole ecosystem, self-contained, right there in a recycled jar. Speaking of unexpected elegance, have you ever seen a silver serving tray put to work in the garden? Line it with pebbles, add a few small pots or seedling trays, and let it become your indoor seed starting station. The metal reflects light and holds warmth, giving your seeds the best possible start, while adding a touch of antique charm to your countertop or windowsill. And finally, something for the playful souls out there, a garden totem pole built from mismatched thrift store cups, saucers, teapots, and lampshades. Stack them carefully, glue them together, and stake the whole piece into the soil. It becomes a tower of character, a sculpture of color and joy that invites butterflies, bees, and plenty of smiles. These pieces may not match. They may be chipped, scratched, or stained by time, but they hold stories. And when you plant those stories in your soil, you grow something more than just flowers, you grow personality. And next, we step into the realm of light, water, and movement, where your garden doesn't just sit still, it glows, ripples, and dances. Let's keep going. Part 5. Light, Water and Movement. The Elemental Elegance, Hacks 21 to 25. Now that your garden is blooming with creativity and charm, let's take it one step further. Let's make it come alive. Because a truly magical garden isn't just seen, it's felt. It moves with the wind. It glows in the dark. It sings in silence. And with just a few thrift store treasures, you can bring these natural elements, light, water, and motion, into harmony with your plants. Picture this: a solar chandelier, created from a handful of Dollar Tree path lights and an old wire basket. Remove the stakes, tuck in the lights, and suspend it from a sturdy tree branch. As dusk falls, soft golden light drips through the leaves like stardust. It's no longer just your backyard, it's an evening sanctuary. Quiet, glowing, unforgettable. Nearby, you've arranged a trio of mismatched ceramic bowls, each one filled with water lilies, floating candles, or even a few pebbles and water plants. Vary the heights. Place one on a wooden crate, one at ground level, and one nestled among the ferns. What you've created isn't just decor, it's a zen retreat. As candlelight flickers across the surface and petals drift in the breeze, you'll find yourself breathing slower, softer, deeper. But light isn't just for overhead. It can live in the edges too. Bury a strand of Dollar Tree rope lights around your garden beds, just beneath the surface. As night falls, the borders of your garden softly illuminate, turning pathways into rivers of light. It's safer for nighttime watering, of course, but more than that. It transforms your whole garden into a glowing dreamscape. And then, there's the pièce de résistance. That vintage chandelier you found at an estate sale? Seal it with marine-grade spray, and hang it like royalty from a strong branch or pergola. Now weave jasmine, clematis, or grapevines through its arms. The result? A living crystal sculpture. One that sparkles in the morning dew and glows with sunset. It doesn't just decorate your garden, it crowns it. And finally, for the adventurous gardener with a bit of broken china in the garage, there's the stepping stone mosaic. Take old plates, cups, and tiles, break them into shards, and set them into concrete pavers. Place them throughout your garden like breadcrumbs of color, guiding your steps and telling a story with every footfall. Incorporating these elemental touches, light, water, movement, isn't just about aesthetics. It's about deepening your connection to your space, creating not just a garden, but an experience, a world, a feeling. And now, as we head into the final stretch, It's time to bring it all together. Because this isn't just about hacks. It's about transformation, of things, of spaces, and maybe even of you. Let's wrap it all up, beautifully, from forgotten to fabulous. So here we are, at the end of our garden path. Standing among chandeliers made of vines, boot-filled flower beds, and water lilies floating in old bowls. And maybe, just maybe, you're seeing your home, your garage, your thrift store, and even your trash pile a little differently now. Because gardening, at its heart, isn't just about growing plants. It's about growing possibility, about seeing what could be. Even when the world says, not anymore. An old suitcase becomes a sun-chasing herb bed. A broken umbrella turns into a climbing rose trellis. And a cracked teacup? That's not junk, it's just waiting to bloom. You don't need a huge yard. You don't need a big budget. You just need eyes that see beauty where others see broken, and hands that are willing to try. So if one of these ideas made you smile, or sparked an idea of your own, let us know in the comments. And if you haven't yet, join us by hitting that subscribe button. Here at Earthly Delights, we'll keep growing together. Until next time, may your garden be wild, your hands be dirty, and your soul, deeply, joyfully rooted.